1. I used to work for the Toy Box, and they decided to have a special sale on the Woo video game system. I'll never forget walking into work and seeing the sales sign just a few weeks before Black Friday that said, "Get the Woo for $99.99. I immediately wanted to call in sick because I knew my day was about to be destroyed, but a manager had already seen me, so it was no use. You see, with that sale, you could indeed get the Woo, which retailed for $249.99 at the time, for $99.99. But like all deals, you had to read the fine print. To get the Woo for that price, you had to purchase $150 of other items to make that deal happen. These other items were a 20-pack of Toy Box AA batteries, one lame-looking Olympics game with popular characters from 2 different franchises, one specific gaming ottoman for the Woo, 4 items of your choice made by Gear Ape for the Woo system. It would ring up as $99 for the Woo and $150 for the other items, meaning you ended up spending the regular cost of the Woo for $249.99. Did many people actually read all those details? Fuck no. I barely made it to the electronics section where I worked before I heard my phone ringing, which, as expected, was someone asking, "Are you guys really selling the Woo for $99? These were the easier part of my day, because I got to let the customer down gently and because they'd already questioned the legitimacy of the deal. You see, Toy Box had sent emails out about the deal with the subject line, "Get the Woo for $99.99, with the details inside the email. Then came the Karens, male and female alike. Person after person who'd thrown on their shoes and rushed to the store to get their hands on a $99 Woo, only to bitch at me when I told them there was more to the sale and they needed to read the entire email. I'll never forget one particular grand Karen, though. She walks right up to me and ignores my greeting. "I want the Woo for $99.99. I groan internally. There's more detail to the sale than that. You also have to purchase these other items to... "I don't care about any of that and don't want it. I just want the Woo for $99.99. I'm afraid I can't do that. The entire detail of the sale was in the email and all the advertising. "I just told you I don't care about all that. The email said the Woo was $99.99 and you need to sell it to me like that." I'm sorry, but that's not how the sale works. "Then that's false advertising. You are false advertising." It's not false advertising. All the detail is there in black and white. "No, it's not. It's false advertising. And I want to see a manager." This, of course, was not the last time I had to call a manager over that day to deal with someone who started whining about false advertising. My manager did set her straight, though, and of course she didn't get a $99 Woo. That sale was only 3 days long, but it was absolutely miserable. I got called names by rude customers, got bitched at, and told myself I'd quit on the spot if they ever did another advertisement like that again. Yes, there was an occasional parent who thought it was a good deal, but mostly it was just people who didn't know how to read. Also, for those of you about to come in and say, "Well, I'd just buy the bundle and return all the other stuff, then keep my $99 Woo," you can't do that. Anything sold as a bundle or a deal in my Toy Box store also had to be returned as a bundle to keep people from doing just that. 2. So I was on till, checking out this 79-ish-year-old woman. Her daughter told me her age for some reason. So, to start off, she just left her basket on the conveyor belt, didn't take anything out. So I asked her, "I'm sorry, but can you please take everything out of your basket?" Then the daughter proceeds to say at Morrison's, a British grocery store, they take the stuff out of the basket for the elderly. Well, this isn't Morrison's, and I am the only person on the till, ever. 'Cause it's a one till open at a time kind of shop, unless it's really busy. It's also really awkward to try and take everything out of the basket and then proceed to fumble around with it to get it out of the door, because the conveyor is higher than my waist. Anyway, so I'm checking her out, and she proceeds to talk with the guy behind her in line, also old, and she had the audacity to start saying in front of me, A young person, that she doesn't understand why young people have illnesses in the head. Yes, she said it along those lines. Or why they ever get stressed doing this job, as I'm stressed doing this job, and how they never smile, like you're part of the reason why, lady. And that they're never bothered or willing to help. Can't remember this bit particularly, but something like that. Another thing she said is when they used to work, they would just get on and do it. Then the guy says that this young lady isn't like that. At least he has some situational awareness. She didn't say anything back, just thanked the guy, thanked me, and left. She's clearly never tried to smile for hours, and it's people like her and pretty much her generation. This made me miserable doing this job, and has made me just not care anymore. It's the constant repeat of stupid phrases, and the one that really gets me is, you try to escape, as if I'm chained to the bloody till and not allowed to leave. I hate this job, and I'm looking for another one. I only stayed a year doing this because I needed the experience. It's my first job. Other things that have made me resent this job is I'll get asked by a colleague if I know how to do a refund, like I haven't been on the till doing it for a year and 4 months. I'll get asked things like this all the time. I'm treated like I'm incompetent, and I'm starting to think it's just because I look young. The people I work with aren't much older than me. Then I'm constantly put on the till, even though they know I hate it, and I'm not a people person. There was a week of stock shift, and then nothing, just till ever since. And they always give me stuff to put out at the very back of the store, then shout for my name to come back. Like, you're there, you go on the till. Or, don't give me stuff to put out at the back of the store. They also ask me to clean the freezers. All 62 of them. Wipe them down. That's not my job, I'm not a cleaner. It's a small store, a small team, but they've made me resent the place. I'm always treated like a child, and that I'm incompetent. I'm an adult, and I'm sick and tired of it. It's got to the point where I just don't want to go in. The tills are also right next to the door, so it's super cold when they open too. And if I have a 15-minute break, I have to awkwardly ask to have it, or I just won't get it. I'd rather not have one than ask someone to come take me off. Extra bit. I'm sometimes told by the customers not to look so worried. I'm not worried. I want you to go away and stop talking to me. I know I'm not cut out for customer service, but it was really the only job I could get without any experience in anything. 3. This happened last week after my son's soccer practice. I had just had a few minutes between finishing work and having to drive my son, 10 years old, to soccer. So I did what I normally do and grabbed the first shirt off the top of the pile in the drawer and put it on, without a second thought. I work from home, so I haven't shaved for a few days, so I look a bit grungy. At the same time, my wife had laid out my son's clothes for soccer, including a bright yellow soccer shirt with the appropriate overpriced logo on it. It wasn't until some other parents at the practice started teasing me that we were shirt twins that I realized that the shirt I was wearing was also bright yellow, sans logo. So we left, the kids practiced, and all was good. During practice, my wife messaged me and asked if we could pick up some groceries, milk, bread, and so on. So we drove over to the local grocery store. A typical day. When we got to the store, the closest parking spot had a few carts in it, so my son helpfully got out to move the carts while I pulled in. He pushed a few to the return area nearby and kept one for us. Again, a typical boring day getting groceries. As I got out and grabbed the cart my son left for me, and he came back, some woman parked next to us and was putting her groceries in her SUV, and we heard her say something like, "I'm done with my cart," but of course we didn't pay attention. About 30 seconds later, we heard metal scraping on metal and turned to see the lady backed into the cart she left behind her SUV. As we started chuckling, she got out of her car and started yelling at my son that he was supposed to take the cart, and now he has to pay the damages because he didn't do his job. My son wavered between laughing, crying, and running because it was funny, but he is shy and didn't know what to do. She then started in on me, said my employee didn't take the cart, as others, including the cart people with the bright orange vests, started coming around to try and understand what was happening. Avoiding cursing in front of my son, I told her to shut up. He obviously doesn't work here, since 1, he is wearing a soccer uniform with a giant swoosh on the front, and 2, he is a 10-year-old kid. She then started saying I should have moved to cart since obviously my yellow shirt meant I worked there, and the crowd of 5 or 6 people who formed started laughing at her. The cart guy walked up to her and told her he needed her to come into the store to talk to the manager because of the damages, and that he will make sure we will be taken care of. We checked that there was no damage to our car and got the groceries, and when we were checking out, a cashier urged us to a new lane that had no line, so we could get out quickly while the lady was still heard arguing with the manager about insurance. 4. I have a co-worker, B, who is an absolute nightmare. Extremely rude, takes constant breaks, and is generally just unpleasant. At my store, we had a second chance program thing, which is where she started. Already, from the first time I spoke to her, I could tell she was a bitter miser. Here's some of her greatest hits. 1. She once swept all the misplaced clothes onto the floor and yelled at the customers for the mess they made, then went to the back to blame it on me. 2. She made underhanded comments towards me pertaining to work. Because I didn't know that we were switching the warmer clothes to the front for the coming fall season. I was off the day before, and no one told me we were switching clothes. I was so pissed I stormed out of the store. Luckily, my boss said I did the right thing. She knows full well I could have easily exploded and went right up to B's face and cussed her out, because that's exactly what I was going to do if I stayed 1 second longer. 3. I was getting the hangers off the clothes that a regular of ours was getting. She normally gets hundreds of dollars worth of things and still had another basket of clothes, so I offered to get her full basket rung up and saved in the system, so it'll be a quicker transaction when she's done. B found out what I was doing and immediately started mouthing off. "Oh, so you're the only cashier here, huh? Why are you doing stupid things like that?" I held my tongue as long as I could, but eventually I went to the back and started cussing up a storm about that wretch. Our assistant manager had to go outside and finish what I was doing anyway. I was so heated, I had to take a walk outside with another employee to calm down. B was still mouthing off the entire time, mind you. 4. When we get real jewelry, we're supposed to put it up on our online site, instead of selling them in store. We once got a whole bag full of wristwatches and B immediately hoards them and starts up-pricing them. When the assistant manager, who's also a good friend of mine, sold one piece, B noticed it was gone and asked me what happened to it. When I told her, she had the nerve to say, "He doesn't have the authority to do that." Remember, she's an associate, he's an assistant manager. Yes, he does have the authority. 5. My assistant manager friend went by her to close her register, and she apparently didn't hear him say "excuse me." When he went back to the office, she starts saying things like, "One of these days he's gonna catch these hands 'cause I ain't playing." I immediately told him what she said, and considering he hates her too, tells our boss in the hopes of getting her fired. Unfortunately, it backfired, because she still works here. She was simply reprimanded. 6. She takes long breaks. I actually don't mind this one since it means less time dealing with her. She was once on her 30-minute lunch break and came back an hour later. This is not unusual. One time she had left after I went on my break, and when I got back, I was told there was no staff on the floor at all while I was gone. 7. Extremely rude. Don't get me wrong, I can be extremely rude and argumentative with customers myself. The difference between us is that I'm only that way with people who are rude to me first and approach me disrespectfully. B, on the other hand, can be rude regardless of how people approach her. Even our nicest customers have complained about her attitude. We've actually lost customers because of her. One of our regulars actually calls us first and won't come in if he learns that B is there. Yes, she's that bad. 8. Another one of our assistant managers had an argument with her about her constant breaks. One reason B goes out so much is because she picks up her kids from school and her son, who's actually really nice, doesn't drive, so she'll take him to work. The other assistant manager had a counter-argument that if she was the same way, she'd have to drive over 30 miles to pick up her daughter from her ex-husband's place while on the clock. So if she can't do that, why do you, B, have special privileges? Anyway, after that, she just straight up avoided B. She'd come in and say hi to me and everybody else, but not B. And she doesn't mess around, she makes it blatantly obvious that she's ignoring B, and I can't blame her. 9. We're not allowed to shop in our own store. We can have friends buy things for us. Within reason, of course. B took major advantage of this and would put hundreds of dollars of merchandise under her counter, and had a regular, who has since moved out of state, buy it for her for $20 or less. Multiple times she's done this. That's just some of the more major things she does. She's generally unfriendly anyway. She can be fine sometimes, but more often than not, she seems intent on making enemies. 5. Okay, so a bit of a heads up. Most of what happened I got secondhand from people who were also working when I was and saw what happened. So, I'm 21 years old and non-binary. I was working fitting rooms at a mart with a K at the start of it. So far, the 3.5-hour shift has been going good. However, throughout my shift I noticed these two ladies with two large carts, filled and almost overflowing with all kinds of stuff. Bluetooth speakers, wrapping paper, and toys based on side glances I didn't really get a good look in. They have both been wandering our store for the majority of my shift. I didn't realize the time, but other co-workers thought they were sus. I probably did too. I also didn't realize it was two ladies at first, until the two went to leave the store. One was wearing a dark blue shirt and one had white. So, I was putting away some clothes near-ish the front of the store. I went over to in-store security as well as my co-worker, who was the customer greeter, about the two ladies. It's probably nothing, but they do have a lot of stuff in both trolleys. I also explained what shirts they are wearing to make it easier. Not even 10 minutes after I did this, both ladies go to leave the store. They haven't even gone through the checkouts. Myself and the two other co-workers on checkout and self-checkouts know that, which they let the greeter know via walkie-talkie. Our store calls them push-to-talks. I don't know how many others do. I keep glancing over to see what's happening, but I end up getting busy. So I wasn't able to see much else of what happened. However, based on what my co-workers and managers said, this is what went down. Dark blue shirt lady and white shirt lady were stopped at the front of the store. Greeter and security asked them for the receipt. Dark blue shirt lady proceeds to frantically look through her bag, and then pulls out a receipt from another store, Kohl's. Since we are a department store, cheap clothes, etc., it was pretty obvious this was not from our store. The receipts are very different. So dark blue shirt lady makes up an excuse. Her boyfriend paid for the stuff, and runs out of the store, leaving the other lady with the white shirt behind with the trolleys. Poor thing just had no idea what to do as she stood around and supposedly waited before she eventually left, leaving the two trolleys in the store. I don't know what her excuse was. During that interaction, my manager had gotten involved. Bear in mind, my manager is fairly tall, lanky, but very tall. I'm like 5'7", my brother is 6 foot something, and this dude is taller than my brother. So, he's a giant. I don't know if the in-store security and tall dude for a manager intimidated the white shirt lady into leaving, or because her friend ditched her, or maybe it was a combo of both. They didn't really try hard to steal. I've seen others who have put up more of a fight and embraced their inner Karens. So they got the two trolleys full of stuff down to the checkouts, and the two co-workers and manager were talking, filling me in on what happened, and also debating on who had to scan what trolley, which understandably they didn't want to do. These trolleys were overflowing with stuff. Anyways, not long after that, the white shirt lady comes back, and apparently she had a receipt from our store. Based on in-store security, this receipt was old, like she probably dug this out of her bag. Apparently, parts of it were brown. The thing was gross and probably a biohazard. Obviously, we all knew it was not the receipt, and she ended up leaving, so all is good. But Wait, it gets even better. As the trolleys are being scanned, towards the end of my shift now, I found out one of the ladies dropped their keys in one of the trolleys. She has to come back to get them. Thus far, she hasn't that I'm aware of. I'm writing this at like 1:33 a.m. and I finished my shift at like 7:30 p.m. They were still scanning the first trolley, still had like 12 bags of stuff in there to scan, and it was already over $1,000 Australian. So, all in, both trolleys are gonna probably be about 2,000, or very close to it based on my estimate, and I may be wrong. I hope I get to see it when they come back to get their keys, but probably not, as I'm not working this weekend. But it'd be really funny if I did. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Adventures in Fast Food and Retail, episode 190. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, I'd appreciate it if you just gave that like button a quick poke. It lets YouTube know you enjoyed the video. And if you'd like to get yourself early access to the videos, then you can do that by supporting me on my Patreon page, which is linked in the description. I think I've also got the address on screen right now. You'll also find a link to the Hellfreezer Teespring merchandise shop, where you can get yourself hoodies and mugs and t-shirts. I think, yes, we have t-shirts, and other bits and bobs. And if you'd also like to make more one-off tips, then you can do so during streams and videos like this one by poking that little heart with a $sign in the middle, and that lets you make donations of your choice to myself, and YouTube gets a little bit of a cut as well. You don't have to do this, but I do appreciate it, and it is very, very helpful. Okay, I don't think we've any other business today, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is... Is there anything, food stuff or a drink or something you've had to give up for a while that you keep hoping, maybe one day I'll be able to enjoy you again? With me, it was energy drinks, and I hadn't had any for about 2 years because my body just wouldn't tolerate it. I have lately discovered that my body is a bit more tolerant than it used to be, and while I can't drink them quite to the same frequency that I used to, every once in a while, and my body is forgiving as long as it's not constant. Which is nice, because it brings a sense of normalcy, especially as I'm able to bring things back into my diet, albeit on a smaller basis that I used to enjoy, and it makes me feel a bit more like myself, and it brings a bit more contentment. Which isn't to say there weren't plenty of other foods and drinks and things I could enjoy, it's just haven't been able to have these. My next attempt, probably in a few months, will be trying to drink cola again, because I love cola. But again, as with basically all drinks with caffeine in it, and I don't think it was just the caffeine, it was probably other things too, my body would rebel. But we will see what happens. Also going to be attempting a korma soon, because I haven't been able to enjoy curries for a while as well. I've been able to have food that's kind of lightly spiced, but not too bad. So I'm going to try a korma, because it's a curry, but a mild curry, and it's very, very yummy. Anyway, let me know what you think, because I'm making myself hungry by talking about that. Let me know what you think in a comment below. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, and especially at this time of year when things are often a little more dreary for people, please do take very good care of yourselves.